And thank you for your time. Thank you to the Moment Test with me, David Adabale. And today we are going to be talking about how to identify your decision making process, because there is a particular process we go through whenever we are making decisions. Now, what we're doing today is titled the Moment Test. We do this every Monday, 8 p.m. on Facebook Live, and we do it on Instagram Live. We're not doing it on Instagram today for technical reasons, but we're going to resolve that. But today we're on Facebook Live. So, all of you joining us for Facebook Live, I want to say you're welcome. Thank you. This is the Moment Test. Why do we call it the Moment Test? Or even, what is the Moment Test? The moment test is when we all stand before our God and Maker and give an account of our life. Because none of us just appear here. There is a creator. Depending on what your concept is about a supreme being or a creator. But none of us just showed up here. Someone sent us here, and one day we are going to give an account to that person for the life he has called us to live. And so the moment test is when we stand before God, our Maker, and give an account for the reason why we are alive, and give an account to how we spend this huge resource that we are given, that we call time. And that is why we call it the moment test. This is the time that it matters the most for anyone who is alive. The time when they're going to stand before their Maker to give an account of their life. That is the most important moment in their life. More important than any exam that anyone will take, more important than any presentation that anyone will need to make, more important than any thesis that anyone will need to submit. The moment when we stand before our Maker and say, with the life you have given me, this is how I was spent it. And that is why it is called the moment test, the time when it matters the most. And one of the things that we shared, because we do this every Monday, 8 p.m. in London time, one of the things that we have shared is the fact that there are 5 key resources that we're going to be giving an account to God for about our life. 5 key resources, and I call them the 5 T's. The 5 T's. The first one is time. Time. What is time? Time refers to time refers to the duration from the moment in which we come into this world till when our time on this earth comes to an end. Time. Time. Let me talk a little bit about time. Time is one of the 5 T's. We have a special focus for today. We have a very special focus for today, but I want to first of all just talk to us about this time. Time, like I said, is the duration from when we come into this world and when our time on earth finishes. That is time. Now, one thing about time, we shared this a couple of weeks ago. Time is a leveler. Somebody says that we all have the same amount of time. The rich have it, the poor have the same amount. It doesn't matter what your geographical location is. Time is constant for everyone. The second one, the second resource that we're going to give account to God for about our resources is our talent. What are talents? Talents are the inner giftings, graces, and flares that the Creator has given each one of us that makes it easier to do the things that we've been called to do. Things that other people find difficult today, we're able to do it easily. That is what our talent is. It talks about our aptitude, our bent, and the things in which we know how to do it. We enjoy doing it. As a matter of fact, we are created for it. That is time. That is our talent. Now, the third thing is our thoughts. Now, we're going to pay special attention to our thoughts today, putting focus on our thoughts today. Our thoughts are the paradigms that we have that influences the decisions we make, and the decisions we make determines the actions we take. The actions we take determines the outcome of our lives. As a matter of fact, today we are paying special attention to our thoughts, and therefore our conversation today is how to identify your decision making process. We're going to come and deal with that. But the point I'm trying to make now is that the third item that we're going to give account to our Creator for about our life is our thought. The fourth one is our trust. Trust. Trust talks about the relationships that we have. You see, There are relationships that you have that God specifically brought them into our life so that we can be effective in what we've been called to do. And it's therefore very, very important that we are intentional in identifying the key relationships in our life and making sure that we are nurturing it effectively so that we can fulfill our assignment. Thank you, everyone who have joined us on Facebook Live. This is the Moment Test with me, David Adabale. With me, David Adabale, and we're talking about how to identify your decision-making process. But I was just doing a recap of the 5 things we're going to give account to our Maker for. Number 1 is time. Number 2, our talent. Number 3, our thoughts. Number 4, trust. And number 5, our treasures. Treasures are the physical, tangible assets that we have that enables us to do the things we've been called to do. It talks about money. It talks about physical assets that we have as well. That is treasure. We now have responsibility to use these 5 resources effectively for us to be able to fulfill the reason why we have been called to be alive, or even more importantly, to fulfill the assignment that we have been given to us. You're welcome. If you're reading, looking forward to more of what we're going to be talking about today, just type Y for yes in the chat. Let me just see. Type for Y for yes in the chat. Sorry, just having some technical interesting things here. Type Y for yes. Thank you very, very much for your time. Today we're talking about how to identify your decision making process, because something does influence the decisions that we take. Let me say that once again. There are factors that influences the decisions that we take, and therefore it is important for us to be able to identify those factors, for us even to be able to identify our decision making process, so that whenever we need to make a decision, it is not difficult because we already have identified our decision making process. Let me tell you the second reason why this is even very, very important. Many times, the decisions, the key life-changing decisions, are the ones that we make at the split second. At a moment where we don't have enough information, enough time to gather any other information. It will be paradigms that we already have subconsciously within us that does determine the decisions in which we make. And so far we're able to identify our decision making process, it makes it quite easy for us to go ahead and also be effective in making those decisions. Number 3, the moment we identify our decision making process, that helps us to be able to pre-plan and also to be able to help other people in developing their own decision making process. Today, you're welcome to the Moment Test with me, David Adabale. We do this 8 p.m. London time on Facebook and Instagram Live, and we are talking today about identifying your decision making process. Can I ask you a question? How many of you, if you're watching me live, can say indeed you have had to make some form of decisions, whether key decisions or simple decisions, in the last 1 week? If that is you, type Y for yes, in which you've had to make decisions in the last 1 week. Type Y for yes. Thank you very much, Sister Joyce. Really good to have you. Oh, Pastor Wally, thank you very much, Pastor Wally, for joining us as well. Thank you so much. I'm deeply, deeply humbled. How many of us have had to make a key decision over not a key decision, but just make decision over the last 1 week? Okay, thank you very, very much. Now, I want to share with us 4 key factors that affect our decision making process. 4 key factors that affect our decision making process. Number 1, and I'm going to start it because yes, we make decisions in our mind, but there are processes that goes on the inside of us, and then it is the outcome of those decisions that we see in form of action that we see externally. So 4 key factors that affect our decision making process. The number 1 is sociological factors, external factors. This is based on what society believe is right or wrong, or what is generally accepted in society. In street language, when we say something is in vogue, that is exactly what it means. Thinking it is acceptable. You'd agree with me that there are certain concepts that 20 years ago it was unheard of in our society, but now it is commonplace. Now, that is why it's very, very important that we really identify and recognize the impact that society makes in our decision making process. So the first factor that affects our decision making process is sociological factors. things from the society. That's number one. The second thing that affects our decision making process, you may not even believe this. If you agree with me, type Y for yes. If you don't, type N for no. Also, if you put questions in here, I'll be glad to answer your questions. But the second factor that affects our decision making process is what I call physiological factors. Our body, how our body respond under certain situations. So, for example, do you agree with me that there is a way in which your body responds when you're under pressure or when you are stressed, like some people will say? For some people, they get a migraine. For some people, they get a shoulder ache. For some people, they get an irritable bowel syndrome. For some reason, they just really become panicky. That's what we call panic attacks, because there is a way our body is responding under certain circumstances, and that does affect our decision making process. That is why it is very, very important for us to be very, very body conscious and know how our body responds under certain circumstances. Even cases when we are trying to develop ourselves and develop a habit, or even increase a discipline to enable us to withstand pressure, is very, very important for us to know how our body responds under certain conditions. Let me share this with you. If you have ever heard of the concept of comfort zone, type C for comfort, because I want to explain something about the sociological factors. I am typing C at my end here. Comfort zone. What is comfort zone? Comfort zone is when our body and our mind can find it pleasant. That's the word. Find it pleasant in whatever state we find ourselves in. Comfort zone could be about the place of work or about just where you are at in any area of life, really. Comfort zone is when certain thought of your current state comes to your mind, you feel pleasant and you don't feel you needed to put pressure on yourself. That is what comfort zone is. Now, you would agree with me that nobody remains in their comfort zone and grow. It is impossible. The only reason why children in the womb have to come out when the time of pregnancy is over is because they are not in their comfort zone anymore. If you've ever seen any of those 3D images or videos that show how children grow in the womb, they start growing, and after a while they get too big for the womb, that every spot is tight. That is why it gets to a point that they have to come out of the womb. They have to come out of their comfort zone. Now, you would agree with me that the process of birth is not a comfortable one at all. I have never given birth to a child before, but I have experienced it as well, and I've heard reports. It is not comfortable for the mom, it's not comfortable for the child, and yes, it's not comfortable for the dad as well. That I'm going to say very, very well. But for that child to grow to the next phase, that child have to go beyond his or her comfort zone to be pushed out. That's the same thing as well. We need to know that we cannot stay in our comfort zone and grow. So while we're going past our comfort zone, there is something that is called stretching point. What is stretching point? Thank you very much. Brother Joseph. Thank you for joining us. What we must recognize that we need to go past our comfort zone and recognize what is a stretching point. What is stretching point? Stretching point is when you pull an elastic material to a point, after which the moment you release it, the elasticity reduces and the length or the capacity of that material increases. Let me give you an example. If I have a rubber that is elastic, or an elastic material that is 1 meter long, if I pull the rubber and I release it back and it goes back to 1 meter, which is what would normally happen naturally, we have not reached the stretching point. However, there comes to a point that you stretch the rubber beyond a certain point, that when you release the rubber of that elastic material, it does not go back to 1 meter anymore. It becomes 1.2 meters. Now, it has gone past its stretching point. And the key benefit of going past its stretching point is that it increases capacity. However, nobody gets to their stretching point and enjoy increased capacity by staying in their comfort zone. Now, this is a big deal because I'm talking about how our body, our physiology affects our decision making process. We need to now know what the breaking point is, so that in the process of being stretched, it's very important that we don't stretch to the point of breaking. Because going back to the analogy of this elastic material, when you stretch it to a point and it increases capacity, that is really good. Now, it's very important to have the wisdom and the discernment to know to stop stretching. Because if the stretching continues, it gets to a time the material will snap and it will break. That is what is called breaking point. So, how does our physiology affect our decision making process? Number one, we must decide we want to leave our comfort zone and head towards the stretching point. When we get to the stretching point, we must be ready to endure the discomfort of that stretching point, because that's the only way our capacity can be increased. Now, the third thing is that once you go beyond the stretching point, we need to know how we need to know when we're approaching the breaking point and stop the stretching. How do you know it? Based on how your body responds to it. Hence, the second factor that affects our decision making process is our physiological factors. So, my question for you is this: how body conscious are you? If you're watching me right now, I want to ask you a question. If you think you are body conscious to a very good degree, type B for body. What do I mean by that? Type B for body. What do I mean by that? Body conscious means, number one, you know how your body responds when you're tired. One, when you're stressed. Two, when you're happy. Three, when you're tired. Four, and when you're hungry. Five. How do you know how your body responds in those five scenarios? When you are, one, under pressure. Number two, when you're angry. Number three, when you're tired. Number four, when you're stressed. Number five, when you're angry. Do you know how your body responds in those five conditions? For some people, you know that when you're in a situation that you are angry, and the moment you notice, for some people, that your hand is shaking or you are already vibrating, you know. Now, because you are body conscious, you remove yourself from that environment to diffuse the situation. Let me use another example. For some people, they might be fine psychologically, they might be able to handle the pressure from work and the pressures of life and everything, but the moment a migraine kicks in, even though they believe that they can handle the pressure, when the migraines kick in, all of a sudden they should just know that, no, I need to chill. So, for example, for me personally, many times I'm able to push myself beyond comfort zone and push myself past stretching point, but I know I'm approaching the breaking point when I have a sore throat, for example. Because for me personally, by being more conscious, I discovered that having a sore throat is a key indicator that my immune system is really low, and if I push any further, I'm about to break down. At that point, I stop everything and I work on my recovery, being body conscious. So let us go back to what we're talking about today. We're talking about how to identify your decision making process, and I'm starting by talking about the four factors that affect our decision making process. The first one is sociological factors, that is based on the society. The second one is physiological factors, which is what I have spent some time to talk about today. The third factor that affects our decision making process is psychological factors. This is based on our experiences, on our paradigms. Let me explain this. I can remember a story. I hope you're finding this useful. If you're finding, hello Gina, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for your time. Now, let me ask you a question. Now, today we're talking about identifying your decision making process. What process do you go through in making decisions, and what are the factors that is affecting your decision making process? Just to be sure that, thank you so much for joining me, those of you who are watching on Facebook. Just to be sure that we're fine and you're following me. If you're finding this useful, just type Y for yes. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Brother Joseph. Thank you, Sister Joyce. If you're finding this useful, just type Y for yes, just to make sure that we're flowing together. Now, I'm talking about a psychological factor, which is the third factor that affects or influences our decision making process. This is based on our experience. And I was going to share a story. I was told of a story of a man who went to an animal circus and he saw a huge, big elephant that had a string tied to his one of his legs at the back, one of the hind legs, and that string was just attached to a small peg and just put in the ground. So tiny you would think there is absolutely no way that string and that peg will hold the elephant down. But you know what? It was still successful in holding down the elephant. This man was baffled and he went to the owner of the circus and said, "Wait a minute, let me understand. How are you able to get this huge, full grown, matured elephant to be tied down by a piece of string tied to a small peg that is, stuck to the ground?" The owner of the circus said, "Well, we did not always do that to the elephant. Most of the time and he said, most of the time when we have the elephants and they are brought to the circus, we normally get them as a baby. And the moment they come in as a baby, we get a huge, big, fat chain and tie it around their neck, around their leg. And that huge, big, fat chain is attached to a huge, massive pole. And that pole is buried that pole is stuck to the ground, that there was no way, no matter how strong this baby elephant is, there is no way this baby elephant will be able to overcome the power of the big fat chain and the fat pole that is attached to it. So the elephant tries several times to yank through and yank through and yank through and do it for days on end, and without success. After a while, the elephant settles down and just assumes that is what he's going to do. He cannot free himself from that scenario anymore. When they notice that the elephant has now rested and accepted that is the stage, the situation where it would be. At that point, they remove the big fat chain attached to the huge massive pole. Then they just put a very, very reasonable piece of string and they attach it to a small peg. End of story. Why? Because there was something in the psychology of the elephant that tells the elephant the moment you are attached to any rope and you feel a resistance as you try to walk away, just settle down. That is the impact that our psychological experiences, our past experiences have on our decision making process. Hence, I present to you the third factor that affects our decision making process, the psychological factors. So my question is this: what are the things based on your past experiences that have limited you in gaining good ground on trying new things? The truth is, certain things that were probably true 20 years ago when you have that experience, those criteria may not be true anymore, but you never know until you try. That is why the Bible tells us, for those of us who are students of the Bible, that is why the Bible tells us in Romans chapter 12, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Because as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So our psychological factor is the third factor that affects our decision making process. And now that leads me to the fourth factor that affects our decision making process. Today we are talking about identifying your decision making process. What process do you go through in making decisions? And I'm talking about four factors that affect our decision making process. Number one, sociological factor. Number two, sociological factor based on society, the impact and the influence of society in our decision making process. Number two, physiological factors, which is the impact that our body makes in our decision making process, i.e., how does our body respond under certain conditions. Physiological factors. Number three, psychological factors, as in the psychology that we have. This is primarily based on our past experiences or the information that we have available to us as at that particular time when we need to make that decision. And the fourth factor that affects our decision making process is what I call our theological experience. Theological experience. Theological experience talks about our experience of God or a supreme being about a particular situation. This is how open or not so open we are to the concept that there is a greater force that affects our decision making process or whatever situation we find ourselves in. Just to be sure that you're finding this quite useful. We're talking about how to identify your decision making process. If you can hear me very well and you're out there, you're watching me on Facebook Live, type Y for yes. If you can hear me very well, let me just be sure. Thank you so much for your engagement. Thank you so much, Gina. Thank you so much, Brother Joseph. Thank you so much, Sister Joyce. Thank you, those of you who are watching. Today, we're talking about how to identify your decision making process, because the moment you identify your decision making process, you can even set yourself and even know how to make decisions very, very easily in a way that is beneficial for you. Let me tell you this, because for most of us who are watching, the decisions we need to make are not decisions between good and bad, but they are decisions between good and God. And I've discovered that not all good decisions are godly, but all godly decisions are good. Do you agree with that statement? If you agree with that statement, type Y for yes. Not all good decisions are godly, but all godly decisions are good. So I'm talking about the fourth factor, the theological factor, our experience or our encounter of God. For some people, hello, Reverend Adepoju. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you so much for your time. We're talking about how to identify your decision-making process, and this is the Moment Test with me, David Adabale. Takes place 8 p.m. London time on Facebook and Instagram Live. And today we're talking about how to identify your decision-making process. I will talk about the 4 factors that influences our decision-making process. Number 1, sociological factors based on the society. Number 2, physiological factors based on how our body responds. Number 3, psychological factors based on our experiences. And number 4, theological factor based on our concept of God in that particular area. So my question is this: there's an area in which you probably need to make a decision, or you're thinking about, or you want to discover the best way forward. My question to you is this: what is your experience of God or a supreme being in that area? So for those who are of Christian faith like myself, what does the Word of God say in the Bible? What does the Holy Spirit tells you innately about this particular concept? Have you taken it to God in prayer? And as you took it to God in prayer, what are the things that have been coming up in your mind? Talking about taking things to God in prayer, it reminds me of that song, "What a Friend We Have in Jesus. All our griefs and needs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, what things we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear. All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer." Now, that song comes out of an experience or an encounter or an understanding or an appreciation of a supreme being, and knowing that taking it to that supreme being or that God in prayer exposes dimensions to it that is beyond what happens in society, our body, or our past experiences. And so my question to you today is this: what is your decision making process? Whenever you need to make a decision, what factors is affecting, or what factors influences your decision making process? Is it the society, which is what I call sociological factors? Is it how your body responds, which I call the physiological factors? Is it based on your past experiences, or the information that you have at your disposal, which I call psychological factors? Or is it based on your understanding and your concept of God regarding that, which are called theological factors? So my question is this: which one is it? Now, as you're watching, which one do you think should be the most prevalent factor that affects your decision making process? So for you, if you think it's the society, type A in the chat. If you think it should be our physiology, how our body responds, type B in the chat. If you think it should be our psychology based on our past experience, type C in the chat. But if you think it should be based on our theological experience, which is our experience of God, type D in the chat. So which one? I'll ask this question again. A, that what do you think? So the question is, what should primarily affect our decision making process? Which factors should primarily affect our decision making process? Should it be A, sociological factors based on society? Should it be B, physiological factors based on how our body responds in that condition? Should it be C, based on our psychological factors, our past experiences? Or should it be D, based on our theological experience or encounter of God in that particular area? Whichever one you think applies, you can just vote in the chat right now. Well, I'm going to be rounding up because I'm going to be praying. Today we've been talking about how to identify your decision making process. Why? Because our thoughts is one of the things that we're going to give account to God for during the moment test. What is the moment test? The moment test is the most important time in the life of every human, every individual, because that's the time they're going to stand before God, their maker, and give an account of their life. The moment test. Every experience in life, pardon me, every experience in life is to prepare us for that moment, the moment test. The test when we're going to say, Lord, this is what you're giving me, and this is how I have used the life in which you have given me. That is the moment test. And all these kind of work together. And during the moment test, there are 5 key resources we have been given that we're going to give account to God for. Number 1 is our time. We dealt with that 2 weeks ago. Number 2 is our talent. We dealt with that last week. Number 3 is our thought. We're dealing with that today. Number 4 is our trust relationship. We're going to be dealing with that next week. I'm going to tell you the topic we're going to be covering next week, 8 p.m. London time next week. And number 5 are our treasures. We're going to deal with that later in the future as well. And hey, please tell your friends and family about the moment test, 8 p.m. London time on Facebook and Instagram live with me, David Adabale. Today we'll be talking about our identifying your decision making process. And we talk about the 5 factors that affect our decision making process. Sociological factors, number 1. Physiological factors, number 2. Psychological factors, number 3. And theological factors, number 4. So to identify your decision making process, you need to ask yourself, what influences your decision? That's number 1. And what affects the action you take? That is really, really key. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for joining me. It's amazing to have you all. Thank you, Reverend Adepoju. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Brother Joseph, Sister Joyce. Thank you for just hanging out with us. And it's been really, really amazing. Thank you so much for all your likes and the feedback as well. I pray for God's continued grace for you more and more. Now, I want to round up in prayer. But before we round up, I want to tell you what we're going to be doing next week. Now, if you want to get in touch with me, feel free to do so. If you can follow me on this Facebook, or you can just connect with me as well, davidadabale.com/connect. That'd be really, really cool. I think it'd be really cool if we are able to hang out together as well. I would really, really love that. However, this is what I want to say. Next week, we are going to be dealing with our trust relationship. And next week, the title is How to Recognize Your Destiny Helpers. Because when everything that happens in our life will either come directly or indirectly through people. There is nothing we will encounter in life that will not involve people. Actually, as a matter of fact, there's nothing that we've encountered in life so far that did not involve people. Did you notice that people were involved with every stage of our life? People were involved with our ability to walk, everything we've learned when we went to school, to even start with our birth. Nobody just showed up. Someone was involved in our birth one way or another. Somebody was involved in our birth one way or another. And therefore, it is very, very important that we recognize who our destiny helpers are, because there is nothing that God has called us to do that we can do by ourselves, and it is our destiny helpers that will encourage us, inspire us, help us in our journey towards destiny fulfillment. And that's what we're going to be talking about next week, Monday, 8 p.m. Our conversation is going to be identifying your destiny helpers. But today we're talking about identifying your decision making process, and I hope you found this useful as well. And I want to pray as we round up today. If you found this useful, let us know, and let us know even how we can serve you better. If there's a particular topic you want me to deal with based on the moment test, when we're going to give an account of our time here on earth, let me know, and I'll be served to serve you as best as I can. But right now, I just want us to pray. Father, I just want to pray for everyone who is watching live right now and those who are going to watch later on. Thank you for the fulfillment of your will, O God, and I commit every one of us into your hands. enable us that our decision making process will be in line with your will in the name of Jesus. We recognize that we don't have all the information we need to make the decisions that we need to make. So we receive your grace, your wisdom, your insight, so that through our lives, your name continue to be glorified. Help us. There is somebody out there that needs to make a decision, even as I'm speaking right now, or they need to make a key decision this week. Lord, I ask that you give them the wisdom to be able to make the right decision according to your will, so that through their life and this decision making process, your name is glorified. For this we give you the praise and the glory. In Jesus' mighty name we have prayed. Amen and amen and amen. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for hanging out with me. I look forward to connecting with you same time, same platform next week as we talk about identifying your destiny helpers. Thank you for your time. God bless you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful evening. God bless you real good. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.